Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Erin. Today I have a little bit of a declutter and depanning video for you guys. So whenever I did my perfect purple palette, I ended up ordering another Z palette from Amazon beyond the 9-pan one that I actually used for my ColourPop purple shadows. And so I wanted to go through my collection and get rid of some palettes that were either expired, that I wasn't really digging anymore, and maybe pull some of the shadows out that I do like so I can use those and get rid of the rest of the palettes. Now, this was my first experience with depotting. You know, some shadows bit the dust, some survived, some I did have to kind of repress a little bit. But if you want to see which palettes I'm getting rid of and what shadows I depanned out of them, then keep on watching. So I did use the shadows in my new Z palette on my eyes today. I came up with a very nice pinky look. I really do enjoy wearing pink eyeshadows. I think that they just make blue eyes pop, and so it is one of my favorite looks to wear. I will link this Z palette down below, but this is the purple Z palette. And then of course, I'll give you a little bit of a glimpse inside. These are the shadows that I ended up keeping. Now I do have quite a bit of room for extra shadows, and I look forward to depotting some other ones as I go. You guys might be able to pick some of these out and really guess where they have come from. But I also depotted some of my single shadows over here. These two are the L'Oreal Infallible Paints Metallics shadows. And so I wasn't getting a whole lot of use out of them just in their regular plastic packaging. This here is the regular plastic packaging for the Infallible Metallics. This is in the shade Caged. I did not depot this one because I don't know if I'm ever going to really use this like taupey silver color, and so I'm just leaving this one kind of in here because I don't know if I'm actually going to use it or not. I might have to play with this a little bit more, but if I want to give this shadow away, I'd want to give it away in the original packaging. But I did go ahead and I depotted the bronze one and then also the pink one. I did use the pink one on my eyes today. These are very nice shadows. They have good pigmentation. They are a little bit crumbly for my liking, but those are the other two shades there. I really enjoy the bronze one. I'm still thinking about the pink one because I feel like I have other shadows that have more pigmentation than that pink metallic there. But again, I wanted to depot them and I wanted to try them out and try to get a little bit more use out of them so that I can just pull this one palette out and kind of go from there. Those were the only two singles that I depotted, so I'm gonna go ahead and go into the palettes. So this is going to be a little bit of a declutter, and these palettes are leaving my collection. You may have seen these in some disappointing videos or even my like BoxyCharm roundups and things like that, but I'll go through them quickly and let you know why I am getting rid of these palettes and what shades I ended up depotting. So the majority of the shadows in this top row here and then some in this second row here did come from the Winky Lux Kitten palette. Now this was a palette that we ended up getting in a BoxyCharm last year, and I depotted everything. So I wasn't really getting a lot of use out of this palette. It wasn't inspiring me, so I was hoping that if I mix this palette up with a few other shades that I would get a little bit more use out of it. And I did end up using this pinky shimmer here and also this kind of iridescent shade right here on my eyes. Actually, this pinky shade is nice and pigmented, and this is what I ended up using in my inner corner today because just look at the shine on that. It's absolutely beautiful. And then I kind of packed the iridescent shade all over my lids to kind of give me that pink to blue shine. So I really do think that the Winky Lux formula is really wonderful. I just wasn't getting a whole lot of use out of it, so I wanted to go ahead and depot this one and then get rid of the original packaging. The next palette that I ended up depotting from is from Pure, and this is the Soiree Diaries. Now, I left a lot of the matte shades in here because I felt like I already had matte shades like these either in this palette already or in palettes that I had already. And really, these are a little bit harder of a formula. They are nice and pigmented, but I just didn't feel like I needed these mattes in my collection. even though they are nicely pigmented on the finger swatches, once you actually get them onto your skin, they kind of blend away into nothing. And so I wasn't interested in keeping the mattes of this palette, but I was interested in keeping these 3 metallic shades. So I ended up keeping Glitzy, Twinkle, and Dazzle. And that is these 3 right down here. Again, the Pure formula is not my favorite for metallics. I think they do end up getting a little bit flaky on you, but you cannot doubt the pigmentation on these, and they're absolutely beautiful. And so I wanted to go ahead and give these another try to see what I can really do with them. And I don't think I have anything necessarily in my collection that is those exact tones of rose gold, kind of pewter, and then also bronze. And so I wanted to give those a try, but the rest of this palette is going to be going away. I did go ahead and I skipped on the shade Cosmos, which is this darkest shimmer here, because I just don't feel like I'll ever put anything that dark on my eyes. But again, I want to like the Pure formula, but I can't get behind how chunky and how much fallout there is with them. So the rest of this palette will be going bye-bye. Next, another Pure palette is the Pure and BoxyCharm palette. Now I did depot quite a bit from this one as well, but you guys can see that I left those shimmers in there. These shimmers were horrible. They fell out everywhere. And they are just so thick and chunky. I mean, you can just see the buildup of shadow on my hand there. Like I said, they're beautiful metallics, but they're just too chunky to work with. And I think that I have other shadows in my collection, and even just in this palette right here, that will do better. So I ended up keeping the shades Nakey, Bay, ATL, Mia, and BFF. And if I can name these off correctly, I believe that is Nakey, that is Bay, this one is BFF, then of course the blue one is our Mia, and the ATL shadow I think is the only one that I don't necessarily know which one is the ATL, which probably this one, because the shadows out of the Winky Luxe palette, the pans are made out of steel, and so they stick onto the magnet perfectly. But the shadows from Pure are probably made out of aluminum, so I had to put the little extra piece on the back of them to make them stick. But I am wearing a little bit of this in my inner corner, this throughout the crease today. I did go in with Bay on my lids as well. So I did use quite a bit from the Pure palette also. They are still a little bit chunky. The mattes, when I was going in with the BFF shade, which is this purple right here, I really, really do like this shade. It just blends out a little strangely. I mean, even the swatch on it is beautiful, but you do have to work at it a little bit to get it to blend. So that is everything that I am keeping from the Pure and BoxyCharm palette. And these ones were a little bit harder to depot as well because they're glued in there, and then the pans themselves are made out of aluminum. And this other lone gold shadow down here, this one is from the Winky Luxe palette, and it is just beautifully pigmented and shiny, and just, I don't know if I've seen anything that freaking shiny. That's just gorgeous, and it's soft and it's creamy, and there's not a bunch of fallout on it. So the way I kind of set this up is, this kind of bothers me. I need to switch these two, so my cream is my first one, but I do have all of my metallic shades down here, and then these two fit over here. I have more of my pinky tones down here, and I have 2 blues down here. So as I go, I will reorganize this and kind of make it work for me. If I don't like a shadow, or if I end up, you know, just not using something, I will go ahead and declutter out of this palette. But that is everything that I depotted and put in this palette. But now I quickly want to run down with you guys things that I am just getting rid of, and even after looking through them, they weren't even worth depotting. So BoxyCharm gets me again, the Pure Sculpture palette here. I was thinking about depotting one of these highlighters, but I have better highlighters in my collection. I do feel like the highlighters are very similar to their eyeshadow formulas, and so these highlighters are a little bit more chunky and just not something that I want to put on my face all the time. And as far as the actual like bronzing, sculpting powders in here, these are way too dark for my complexion, and I don't need a pan this big of brown eyeshadows. So I am just gonna go ahead and let this palette go. Maybe somebody else can enjoy it, but I'm gonna pass this on to a coworker or to a friend. Pure's not looking good, but this one was again in one of my fail videos, and I've just been holding on to it to see if I really wanted to take that highlighter shade out of there. But this is another one of the Pure palettes. This is the Bronze and Brighten, again from BoxyCharm. It has a shimmery bronzer, a shimmery blush, and then your highlighter. These are extremely soft, extremely chunky. I mean, look at the pigmentation, they're beautiful. But who can wear a blush that pigmented? I mean, shut up. And I used these in the actual like BoxyCharm video where I unboxed this one, and the bronzer was just so hard to blend. And I'm curious, as far as the highlighters go, if this highlighter is similar to either one of the ones in the Sculpture palette. So at least they have slightly different tones. The top one and the bottom one are from the Sculpture palette, and then this middle one is from the Bronze and Brighten palette. But again, I'm just not the biggest fan of Pure formulas for anything. So these are gonna go and try to find a new home as well. So this next palette again is a BoxyCharm palette. I think with BoxyCharm palettes, I don't feel as bad getting rid of them because a lot of times the prices of the palettes is more than the price of the actual box. So I get my use out of the box, and if I let go of a palette, I don't feel so bad because I'm getting the palette for such a deep discount. But this is the Glam Metals from Crown. Now, this is a awesome palette. The pigmentation on this one is amazing. The shadows are just soft enough to work with and blend out wonderfully. I mean, the metallics are very, very nice, but I feel like the grays and blues in here I wouldn't use all the time. I already have bronzes and golds. The matte black is nice, and I almost picked the matte black out of this palette, but I have a matte black in my Tarte Clay Play shaping palette, and so I figured I'd just use that matte black if I needed one. But overall, I just figured that somebody else could get better use out of this because I'm just not reaching for this for the colors. It doesn't inspire me, so I figure I would just pass this one on. But overall, I really did like the Crown formula. If I was to get another palette with just better shades that suit my preferences, I think that I would use it more. The next palette is by Real Her, and this is the #1 palette. This is the Be Your Own Kind of Beauty shadow palette. Now this did come with 9 different shades. How many are, let's see, I think it comes with 2 mattes and the rest are shimmers. I did use this one quite a bit, and I enjoyed the formula of this one. They're not as pigmented and shiny as other shadows that we've received, but again, this is a BoxyCharm palette. Again, I'm not feeling completely, inspired by this. I think that I have these same colors in other palettes that that I'll use more often. Actually, looking at it, that is the shade Creative. And it's this one down here. It's this kind of like purpley shimmer. I might be depotting that one. And if I wanted to keep another matte black, let's see how, ooh, look at that. It's a decent swatch. So if I wanted to depot anything from this palette, I'd probably take Creative and Smart, and I'll think about it. Otherwise, I might want to just pass this palette along whole so that somebody else can use it. But that Creative shade that is that nice shimmery purple is really, really pretty. But maybe I'll have to look in my purple palette to see if I have one like that already. But this one is also going. So if you see the dogs running around, it has been thunderstorming all day long. And so every single time there's thunder and the house rumbles, the dogs freak out like the house is collapsing on itself. So I'm trying to deal with that, but I am not going to end up depotting Creative because I just ended up swatching it. It's not quite the same, but I think that if I go in with a light hand with Dragonfly, I can get a very similar look out of it because that's Creative and that's Dragonfly. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this palette intact and pass this along to somebody else. All right, we got 2 more palettes and a single. So this is not necessarily an eyeshadow palette, but I just wanna go ahead and lump this in and get this out of my collection. This is, and I'm gonna blind you guys, the Naked Cosmetics. This is the highlighter palette that we ended up getting in a BoxyCharm. I was thinking about depotting maybe this one or this one, but they are very powdery and kind of flaky and just, I don't know if I have anywhere in my collection for these. They are, you know, that nice, especially this one here with the duochrome, but I almost feel that I can get the same thing out of the other duochrome shade that I have in here. Let me swatch these two next to each other. They are a little bit different tones. This one is from the Naked palette, and then this one is from the Winky Lux palette, but I just don't think that I have any need in my collection for these like highlighting, shifting, duochrome type highlighters or shadows. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep this all together and pass this on to somebody else to love. Alrighty, I have a Bare Minerals palette, and again, I'm trying not to blind you guys because this is very shiny. I originally got this for the packaging. I mean, come on, shiny rose gold packaging. But this is the shades right here. This is one of their Bare Minerals Ready Eyeshadows 8.0, and this is the Sexy Neutrals. And I used to use this all the freaking time, even though, you know, I didn't put a whole lot of dents into these. These are harder shadows, so, you know, you really didn't have to dig in them too much. The shadows are all right. I just feel like I already have these in my collection. I have ones that are better than these, and quite frankly, I think this palette is quite old. Let me see how long this palette is good for. 12 months. I have had this way longer than 12 months. I've probably had this for about 3 years. So let me go ahead and pass this palette on. Since it is expired, I am just gonna go ahead and chuck it and not give it to anybody else. I wouldn't want anybody else to get an eye infection or something from this. The Bare Minerals formulas are nice. They're not necessarily my favorite. I do enjoy their complexion products more than their eyeshadow products, but I don't know if I'd necessarily buy another eyeshadow palette with so many other options out there. I don't know if I'd repurchase one from Bare Minerals or not, but I'm gonna go ahead and this one's going to get chucked because it is expired. And the last one is a single or a cream shadow, and this one is by Revlon. This is one of their Color Stay potted cream shadows, and this one is in 705. It is just their kind of like frosty cream colored one. I just was not impressed with this formula. It didn't give me enough shine on the lid to really be worth me using it as a cream shadow. I mean, I could use it as a base, but I have other bases that I like more than this one. But overall, I just have not been impressed with the Revlon cream shadow formula. I think that the L'Oreal pressed pigments are better. I think that the Maybelline, what is it, the like eye tattoo things, those are better. These ones, the color tattoos from Maybelline, I think these are a whole lot better than the Revlon ones. I actually use this one a lot as like an eyeshadow base if I'm doing a more smoky look, and this one is in creamy beige. So I really enjoy putting this all over my lid and setting it down because my shadows do not move if I use the color tattoo. So I'm not impressed with this. It's taking up room. I'd rather somebody else try to use it and try to love it. So the Revlon Color Stay cream shadow in 705 is also gone. So for right now, that is everything that I'm getting rid of out of my eyeshadow palette collection. Everything that I decided to go ahead and depan and get into a Z palette just so I can try to get some more use out of it. I can't wait to fill this up all the way and go ahead and get a whole nother row of shadows in here. I really hope that I don't allow these shadows to get lost in my collection. I do want to go ahead and do like a makeup collection video for you guys. I know I keep saying it, I just need to go ahead and film it, but I do want to go ahead and put that together for you guys so you see what I am keeping versus what I am getting rid of. I know my BoxyCharm is coming in tomorrow, and I know there's another palette in that too. So I do keep getting the influx of palettes. So I know I need to get rid of the ones that aren't to my liking, that don't match my skin tone, that I don't like the formula of the shadows. So I think that I need to do this more often because that's a pretty damn big stack of palettes. But the one palette that I tried to depot and I ended up completely ruining, which made me very, very sad, is last year, one of the first BoxyCharm boxes I ever received. We ended up getting that little black eyeshadow palette from Blink that Blink did with BoxyCharm, and it had the 5 shadows in it. It had like all these metallics with like a pinky red metallic right in the middle. I loved those shadows. They were amazing. And when I tried to depan those, they just crumbled. They were so soft and so creamy and amazing, and I loved them. And I was like, oh, maybe I can repress these. They were completely destroyed. So I had to throw away that entire palette, which made me very, very sad. So I guess I just need to be a little bit more aware of how some products are packaged versus others. If they're in plastic packaging, it might be harder to get them out versus cardboard packaging. So just kind of be wary of that. I ended up having to repress this one from Pure and this one from Pure. Those two kind of cracked on me as I was moving the pans around. But overall, I think I'm going to really, really enjoy kind of rediscovering these shadows while they're in this Z palette. Hopefully I've given you guys some inspiration to go ahead and go through your collections, see what you can get rid of. Don't be hanging on to stuff just because it's stuff. If you are not using it, if it's not the formula that you like, go ahead and get rid of it. But if you like this video, go ahead and give me a big old thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below if you'd like to see me do some more declutters, because I really do need to go through my collection. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell so you know when I upload, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!